Okay, LAN part 3. This is the third part of this module, module 2.1. Okay. When working in a network environment, you need to do the following. You use a username and password to gain access to the network and its resources. You'll be issued with a username. You can choose a password that will only be known to you. You'll be held responsible for any actions done on the network under your username and password. So basically what this means is if you go onto a site or do something on the computer which you know you shouldn't be doing, and they track that, then all they have to do is go and find who the user was, and they will know exactly which person had gone onto a specific site. Okay, so let's quickly look at how recap our passwords. This is a good example of a secure password. It's based on QWERTY, the word QWERTY, Q-W-E-R-T-Y, and made up of numbers and symbols. Okay, so a few rules to follow. Choose a password that is at least 8 characters long. Okay, the longer the better. Just don't make it impossible for yourself to remember. The password should contain a mixture of upper and lowercase letters, so that's capital letters and small letters, numbers and special characters. Your special characters are the hash, at, the percentage sign as an example. You should not use anything else that is easy to guess about you. In fact, meaningless passwords are the best. These random generated passwords are the best passwords, but they are difficult to remember. Okay, be careful of using passwords that follow a pattern on the keyboard, such as ASDF or QWERTY, Q-W-E-R-T-Y. Those are the first 6 letters on your keyboard. Also number patterns 1, 2, 3, 4. And for security reasons, it is best to change your password every 2 months. Okay, let's look at authentication. What is authentication? Authentication works to protect your personal information from unwanted access. You can protect your computer by setting up a username and password that you will need to enter each time you start the device up. For example, your computer or your cell phone. Now, there are new types of authentication that goes beyond a username and password. It is now possible to use biometrics, screen lock patterns, and also PINs. A biometric feature. These are features unique to you, such as your fingerprint and an iris scan. A lot of the new phones are using iris scans to unlock the screen. Then screen locks. On your phone, you may be prompted to enter a specific pattern made up of sliding between a grid or dots. Okay, and the last one is PINs. This is a code that you will enter to unlock your device. Okay. What is ethical use of networks? Whenever people are interacting and sharing resources, there is a need for acceptable ethical practices. Most organizations, including schools, make use of an acceptable use policy, that is the AUP. These are the rules and guidelines of what you are allowed to do in, for example, the computer center. So it outlines the rights and responsibilities of its users, especially in a network environment. Now this could be, for example, not playing games in the computer center, or downloading music or series while you are at home. Okay. So let's take a final look at the acceptable use policy, your AUP. It needs to be frequently updated and is put in place to do the following. To clearly list what the users are permitted and not permitted to do in order to protect them when they're using computers and when you are online. It will include basic netiquette rules and responsible computer use. Now the word netiquette means net etiquette. Now, an example of netiquette is, for example, you won't go and send a message on WhatsApp written all in caps locks. Why? Because that is seen as shouting at someone. So it's the same in emails and when you're writing online. So make sure that it is friendly and you're using appropriate language. Also be careful of using too much SMS or WhatsApp language where you shorten every single word. Okay, so basic netiquette rules and responsible computer usage, as well as any other restrictions the organization might feel is necessary to implement, such as restrictions related to the internet usage. So say, for example, to make sure that everyone is able to access the internet during this lockdown time, that each person will only get 1 gig of data per day to use. But if you've got someone who is streaming Netflix or Showmax from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to sleep, they will be using a lot more internet usage than, say, their neighbor. Okay. So it serves as a contract between the organization and the user. So it summarizes what they can and cannot do, as well as possible consequences. So if you do something that you're not supposed to in the computer lab, it could lead to you getting into trouble or getting a detention. Okay. It also puts the duty of using the network in a responsible and ethical way on the user. So you're not going to do something that, as you've heard us speak before, do not do anything or post anything that you would not be prepared to post in front of your grandmother or onto a billboard. Okay. It must also include a code of conduct. Okay. Every school, every company will have a code of conduct, and the same goes for networks. Okay, this is to do with ethical, legal, and safe use, privacy of other users, so you are not going to log into someone else's account and go and see what work they've done. The forms of online communication, so how are you allowed to communicate with others? Restrictions on the amount of data and information downloaded from the internet. Accessing sites with objectionable and offensive material as defined by the laws of the country. So not only do you have to abide by the school rules and policies, you have to abide by the country's laws. So if you are going to use the school system to hack into another network and you are caught out, then you will be arrested. Okay. It should also include details on when and where portable storage devices may be used. So this is your BOID. Bring your own device. Details of restrictions about installing any hardware or software. So on our system we use deep freeze to prevent this from happening. As you know, the minute that you switch off anything that had been installed, whether it was malware or software that had been downloaded, it gets wiped off our system and a new image is reloaded when I start the computer up again. Procedures to follow if users find they are victims of identity theft. It can be malware such as viruses, even cyberbullying and cyber stalking. So how to protect yourself? We will be discussing this further at a later stage. Hints to avoid plagiarism. Now, very, very important in your PATs, you must make sure that everything is in your own words, and even though it's in your own words, you have to state where you found the information. Otherwise, it is considered plagiarism. This will also fall underneath the copyright law. Clear consequences of violating conditions spelled out in the AUP. So, if you break any of the rules, then you are subject to, could be a hearing, or that you will not be allowed in the computer center. Okay, you are now going to work through the written module activity in your textbook for module 2.1, and you will submit your answers online.